So yesterday I saw the Coen brothers' new film Hail Caesar. It's a comedy slash musical sort of starring George Clooney, and to be honest, I was disappointed. I had semi high expectations for this film, and it just on a lot of levels just was very disappointing. Now, the Coen brothers, they're not one of my more favorite directors, but I'm a fan of them. I've seen only two of their films, but I have respect for them. I've seen The Big Lebowski and Fargo. I like them both equally. I say I might like Fargo a little bit more. I know that's not a popular opinion, but that's my opinion. They're both great. I recommend both. Yeah. And so basically, the plot, or at least the trailers, led you to believe that the plot was that George Clooney stars in a big biblical film that was made in the 1950s called Hail Caesar. And during the production of it, when it's finally wrapping up, he is knocked unconscious and is held for ransom. And what they also led you to believe is that they take all the big stars of Hollywood to go and rescue him. And while it definitely does have those elements, he does get kidnapped, he does star in this film. It's sort of misleading in a way. Um, Now, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the big rescue didn't consist of every big star in Hollywood. Because that's clearly what the trailers are going for. And in the trailers, they showed people like Jonah Hill and can't remember her name, but she has a couple of scenes in the film. Um, I'll put her name up somewhere if I remember it. And their scenes are cameos at best. Frances McDormand is also in it, who you might know as the main character of Fargo, and again, at best a cameo. It's the whole film is just was very uneventful. Nothing really happened in it. It was basically just it put you in the world of 1950s Hollywood, which it did very well. Um, it mentioned a bunch of different things. I mentioned a bunch of like internal things, which, I mean, not really many people get. There was a lot of business scenes that the modern audience or any audience really would not really find that interesting. There's nothing really at stake. I mean, yeah, he's kidnapped, but there's nothing really happens to him. And yeah, in the end, everything all works out, and all the things were sorted out, and there was only a couple of scenes that I actually found even somewhat funny. I saw this with a couple of friends, and they never even saw a Coen Brothers movie, and I was just hoping that this would impress them and maybe get them into the Coen Brothers, but it was just, it made us all laugh maybe a couple times, and it sort of just seems like we were forcing ourselves because nothing was happening. Certain scenes didn't really make sense. Certain scenes just seemed completely out of context, and it also just seemed to stop. What I mean by that is that it didn't really end. The film just didn't end like a normal film. It just sort of stopped. Like halfway through editing, they forgot to edit in the ending, so they just came up with this at the last second. Overall, it's a very just disappointing film. Unless you're a fan of the Coen brothers, you're not going to enjoy this, or unless you're a film fan, because it definitely makes a lot of references to old films. Not really, but it makes there's a lot of satire about old westerns and old epics and old musicals. There's a musical scene with Channing Tatum which was decently entertaining, but again, didn't fit the context. There was only one other scene which was during like a fancy party that was both somewhat funny to watch but painful. It's it's sort of, I don't want to give everything away, but basically they hired somebody from a western to do this fancy movie, which is a pretty cool concept. I mean, you're taking somebody who's only doing stunts and running around and stuff, and putting him in this fancy sort of high society esque movie, and he's supposed to act and talk like one of those gentlemen, but he isn't able to. It's a famous scene called "Would that it were so simple." Would that it were so simple. Something like that. It all just seemed like Jeremy John said it the best. It all just seemed like an inside joke that the Coen brothers had about Hollywood. Overall, give it a watch at least once, but I don't recommend buying it on DVD. I barely think it's worth the price of admission to see it in a theater. Because the thing about movie theaters, or at least my philosophy about theaters, um, I'd say philosophy like it's some big intelligent thing, but what I feel is that it enhances the movie going experience or the movie watching experience so that it makes it better to see. But this time around, that didn't even help at all. I feel like if I saw it a second time, which I mean I might, that it won't even be good. I think it'll be worse than this the first time. Because usually with some movies, for example, Fargo, I liked it better the second time. Overall, if you happen to find the movie once it comes out on DVD, or if it eventually comes to streaming or whatever, see it once if you want to, but I don't recommend spending money on it unless you want to. I give it a 6 out of 10, and which is unfortunate because I gave both Fargo and The Big Lebowski a 9 out of 10 because I think they're both quality films. But I mean, if you're looking for an art film or an extremely well made and put together film that isn't just like some sort of blockbuster, go see The Revenant or something like that. I recommend The Revenant. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Yeah, have a good one.